Howdy howdy, my name is John, and this video is a review of the series The Greatcoats by Sebastian de Castell. First, I just want to give a quick rundown of the star rating that I gave each book. Traitor's Blade is the first book in the series, and I gave it 5 stars. The book's not perfect, but it's a lot of fun to read. The second book in the series is Night Shadow. This one almost got a 5-star rating from me, but I had a few issues with it, and this one got a 4-star. This one is my second favorite of the series. The third book is Saint's Blood. This one I also gave 4 stars. This is my least favorite novel of the series because it was a lot harder for me to get involved with the storyline in this book as it was in the other 3. Really, in the middle, it kind of felt like a 3-star novel, but I really enjoyed the ending of this book, and the ending is what solidified it as a 4-star book for me. Tyrant's Throne is the 4th and final book of the series. I have mixed thoughts about this book, but at the end of the day, it's a solid 4-star book. First, I want to talk about some of the things I did not like about this series. There are some scenes, especially in the first 2 books, where there's some Deus Machina, and it's kind of obvious, and it kind of takes you out of the story just enough. One of the things that I did like about this series is just how clever of a writer de Castell is. However, there are times where the cleverness gets a little overcomplicated. Sometimes it feels like you're looking at one of those old Rube Goldberg designs. Another thing that I didn't care for is that there are times when de Castell is kind of talking about politics, and in my opinion, the discussion around politics usually tends to be a little clunky. Again, that's just my opinion. Maybe you will find it differently, but here again, these stories are more action and adventure, but these discussions do pop up from time to time, and in my opinion, they just weren't handled very well. The last thing I want to mention is that in the first 2 books, we start to learn the kind of the king's laws, but these laws get dropped after the second book. We don't learn any more of the laws after the second book. In the third and the fourth, they're missing, and I miss that. I would have liked to have seen the laws kind of expanded. All right, let's get to what I did like. The thing I like most about these books is the humor. These books are really funny. I laughed out loud a lot of times while reading these books. And de Castell mixes in a lot of darkness in these books too. There are a lot of scenes that are really, really dark. And that's kind of my type of fantasy, is where it has both humor and darkness. The next thing I really liked about this series are the inspirational speeches that Falcio gives. Falcio gets accused of many times in this book of talking people to death. And honestly, that assessment is pretty true. Falcio can run his mouth with the best of them. The next thing I liked about these books is that each book is a self-contained story. That each story follows the story of the previous books, and it helps to know the world. But at the end of each book, it feels like a conclusion of the book. Another thing I like about this book is that sometimes friends will become enemies, and enemies will become maybe not friends, but allies. And just this kind of constant, are they good? Are they bad? Are they on our side? Are they not on our side? This kind of shifting alliances makes for some interesting reading. Another thing I like about this novel is that there are some very interesting side characters. Falcio likes to come up with a lot of clever names for these people too. One of the characters in this novel, Falcio gives the name of Ugg. Falcio belongs to an order called the Greatcoats, but they're basically the judges of the land, and they travel in a circuit, and they render decisions, and they're actually trained to sing the decisions to make them memorable. And the first book really explores the role of the Greatcoats. Each book after the first book takes a separate group and then explores that group and then their role in the bigger society. And I found this focus on a new group each book to be really fascinating. Next, let's talk about the religion of this world. The kingdom where this novel takes place has 6 gods. And the novel doesn't really focus on the gods so much, but they do make up part of the world. What I really enjoyed, though, were the saints. All of these saints have a clever name, something like Saint Gan, who laughs with dice, and I found these saint names to be really entertaining. Often, these saints' names are used as a form of swearing in this world. After I started to notice this being used, I started to write them all down. And these saints are one of my favorite parts of this series. Finally, I know I complain that sometimes his cleverness does get a little overcomplicated, but Castell is a very clever writer, and it works much more often than it does not. I really enjoyed reading this series. If you like fantasy with a mixture of humor and darker subjects, then I highly suggest that you give it a try. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.